You do not fear death. You think this makes you strong. It makes you weak.
Why?
How can you move faster than possible, fight longer than possible, without the most powerful impulse of the spirit? The fear of death.
I do fear death. I fear dying in here. While my city burns. There's no one there to save it.
Then make the climb. As the child is. Without the rope. Then fear will find you again.
Supplies for your journey. Oh, that's wonderful.
What does that mean?
Rise.
All right, giving all praises to Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai B'Shem Howard HaKodash, saying double honors to our apostles and elders. Here, great millstone, peace and blessings to the Lord's hopeful elect. So that's The Dark Knight Rises, phenomenal movie. I believe all the Christian Bale movies were great. The three, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises. Those are the only three I watch. I think the other ones don't even come close to those ones. But I was having a conversation earlier with a friend of mine, and we were just talking about like in this world and like ideas, right? Passive income, those type of deals. And I explained to him that if you read this book is dealing with so-called black inventors, right? And I was explaining to him that it was one thing I noticed in that book, right? When you go and do research about our people and the things we created, especially in this society, you find out we created everything. But what stood out to me the most was that for majority of the people, majority of the time, what really sparked our people a little flame to create such things that we now use today in our everyday life, what pushed them to that limit or to come up with that was simply their circumstance. So like, for example, the home security system, the actual patent for the home security system was created by our people. It was a so-called black woman. And her story was quite simple. She was in Harlem. Her husband went off to work and she would be at home by herself, and it would get late and she would hear knocks on her doors and she would be afraid. So every night she would be afraid of being by herself. So she came up with an idea to insecure herself in her own home. So she came up with her own fancy way, which of a security system, which actually led the grounds for the patent for home security systems, period, in general. So it all originated from us, from a so-called black woman. And then, and so what drove her to do that? It was simply her circumstance. She wanted to feel safe. She felt her life was, in threatened each and every day. So she came up with a way to ensure her security. Another example, I always forget the name of the gentleman, the lubrication system when it comes to trains. Trains trains can go nonstop, but the original start out of trains involved is stopping and going. They would go so many feet, then they would have to stop, then they would have to cool down the gears. So they would cool it down, then they would have to go a few feet, cool it down again, right? But Jake said, okay, this is frustrating, this is annoying. So he came up with a continual dripping of oil on the gears to keep it cooled down, which led the very first patent to lead to a lubrication process, which has allowed them to run the trains. So that idea of a continual lubricant when it comes to gears and your cars and all that, our people came up with that. And many other inventions we didn't came up of that came out of slavery. Our people, when we in hard times, we shined. Why? It's because of the circumstance. So in this truth, it's going to be the same. Just like, because I told him, I said, I may have mentioned it in a movie. I said, see, a lot of times you have to make the climb without the rope. Just like in that movie, as he explained to Batman. Batman, if you remember in the movie, they're in the damn pit. All those people were in the pit, and there's only one way out. And it was only one person that recorded to make it out. They believed it was Bane, but it was really the girl. So he said, I'm gonna get us the hell out of here then. I got my strength back. I think he tried like 3 times and he failed. And he's like, man, why can't I make that jump? So what the brother tell him? He said, because you don't fear death. Of course I fear death, man. I don't want to be here when my city burns. He said, well, then make the climb. He's like the child did. And at that moment he knew, so you telling me to go up there? And he said, without the rope. So what you learn from that is, as he explained, when your back is against the wall, you're going to do one or two things. You're either going to sink or swim. And that's very true. All right. So another example, like Cat Williams, when you listen to him on the club show, Shay Shay show, how did he explain how he got there, right? Same story. He said, I came from a rough home. One day I had enough. I packed my stuff up and I just left. I didn't know what I was going to be, where I was going to go. And I think he said he went to Florida. So at that point, he was homeless, but he was hustling. And then he had an opportunity to freely speak at an open mic night. And he said, you know what? People always said I was funny. Let me get us a shot. So that basically jumpstarted to where he's at now. And now he's his own man. He's his own boss. Why? Because the circumstances put him in a situation where he either had to sink or swim. And at that point, he performed. And this is where he's at today. He pulled out of himself something that he didn't even know was there to get him where he was there. And it was all because he said, hey, I had to come up with something. I had to survive. So just like with Batman, what you learn from that scene is that in this truth, the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua requires you to be all in this truth. He requires you to cast all your chips in on him. And that rope, right, basically represents like a safety net in this world. There are certain things you may have or that you may be holding on to. And deep down in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm going to hold on to this as a safety net just in case this truth don't work out. And let me tell you, the Lord, you're going to be tested because the Lord's going to make sure that each and every one of his elect, he's going to be able to vouch for in that day, and that he can say, basically just like Abraham, that you are his people and that you let everything go for his sake. Revelation chapter 3, verse 14. And unto the angel of the church of Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and the true witness, the beginning of the creation of Yahweh. I know thy works, that thou art neither hot, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would that thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. What is he saying? He's saying you're either you aren't fully hot and you aren't fully cold. He said, I would rather you either be on fire for this truth or not in this truth at all. Don't be lukewarm. The lukewarm is, I got 1 foot in this truth and I also got 1 foot in the world. I'm straddling the fence just in case this truth don't work out. Well, in case the Lord don't come like he said he was, in case this don't work out for me in the truth, I got this safety net over here in this world that I can always use in case. So you're basically trying to make the climb with the rope. You got to let that fear, in this case, he said what? The fear of death. You got to let the fear of Yahweh Shem Yahushua be your lifeline. That's what's going to have to drive you to get you to the next level. When you lukewarm, you deep down, you have 1 foot in this world and you holding on to it just in case this truth don't pan out. At least I'm gonna go do this. Well, look, let me tell you something. The Lord knows all of our hearts. He knows what we're holding on to, if we're holding on to anything, and it will be put to the test. You will go through a string of events and the Lord's gonna really see if you're about what you say you're about. And just like when you study the history, like our forefathers, like I made mention of Abraham, been on my thoughts as of recently. When you're going to get put to the point where you're going to have no other option but to trust in this truth. The Lord's going to put you in a situation where you're either going to have no option but to either trust in him, or you're going to go back to what you was holding on to, that little safety net of yours that you have in this world. That's basically what that rope represents. And he's going to see if you really about it. And for a lot of people, they're going to fold. Because would you make that climb? Because once Bruce Banner, once he got to that rock, he said, no, don't give me that rope. Once he made it up to that point, he said, that's it. Ain't no turning back. And let me tell you, you're going to find yourself in that situation so many times in this truth. And all you're going to have is that fear of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And the Lord is going to put you in those situations. And out of it, if you make that jump and you are his elect, out of it, you're going to grow. Just like Abraham. As Genesis 22 says, and it came to pass after these things that Yahweh did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, behold, here am I. And he said, take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mounts which I will tell thee of. Now to jump down, now you know the deal. It was a 3-day journey. And during that 3 days, you thinking about that. The Lord tested him to see if at any point in that time, up until the day, would he back out and say, no, can't do it. If you jump down, verse 11, and the angel of the Lord Yahweh called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham, and he said, here am I. And he said, lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest Yahweh, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind, a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Yahweh Yireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord Yahweh it shall be seen. And the angel of the Lord Yahweh called out unto Abraham out of heaven the second time and said, By myself have I sworn, said the Lord Yahweh, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. So that was the blessing that he got. Now, why did he get that blessing? Because the Lord said, now I know that you really do love me more than anything else. Because you got to remember, Abraham, how long did he go without Isaac? The Lord was telling him for years, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to bless you. But Abraham didn't even see it till he's basically, 100 years old? That's when Isaac was born. But when Isaac was grown enough, then he said, so he already over 100 years. He finally gave you the son that he said he's going to give you. And then he says, now go up and sacrifice him. And Abraham said, it's the will of the Lord. So what do you learn from that? Is that the Lord will put you to the test. And just like Abraham didn't even know, but the Lord already had a ram there to offer for him, but he just wanted to see. So you see, he didn't even have to offer up what was the most precious to him, but the fact that he was willing to, the Lord preserved it. So in this truth, we all have loved ones. We all have things in this life that we sacrifice a lot for. The Lord knows. And if you got that mentality that you are all for this truth, so long as that one thing that's precious to you is not up to be offered, Lord, I'm with you all the way up until this one thing. A lot of that for a lot of us, you're going to find out it's going to be your lives. A lot of us say, hey, I'm all for this truth. All the way up into your life, though. Maybe that life is the last line you're willing to draw. Maybe it's your son. Maybe it's your daughter. Maybe it's your wife. Maybe it's your livelihood. All these things you was willing to give up, but there's just that one thing that deep down you said, nah, I'm drawing the line here. I'll let it all go, everything else, but not this one thing here. You are going to be tested, and that very one thing that you will hold on to will be used. Whatever it is you're not willing to sacrifice will become the sacrifice. And for a lot of us, it's going to be our lives. A lot of us, we say it all the time. We talk, when that chip comes, even we going to be put to the test. We're going to really see if we about what we say. Because a lot of us, I'm going to not say us, I mean who believe, a lot of us believe we willing to let it all go until the time actually comes where we ourselves going to get touched. Then that's going to be the real test. Right? That safety net that you have in this world, a lot of people have a safety net. And like, I'm all for the Lord, but I'm holding on to this one thing just in case. Abraham passed the test because he made the jump. He made the climb without the rope. He said, this is all. Okay. The Lord wants you to cast all your chips in this truth. And as the scripture says, the faith of a mustard seed will grow into one of the biggest trees ever. But a little faith, that faith of Abraham is the reason we're standing here today. The reason we even have the Holy Spirit today. The reason we even exist is the faith of one man, because he was not willing to hold anything back from the Lord. Thus we have a chance. So that's the faith of a mustard seed to what? Now we're as what? The stars of heaven. The acts of that one. So just like from that movie, the moral is, hey, brother Eagler, look, you don't really want to get out of here because you still holding on. You still a fear. You still want to have that rope on, that safety net. If you really want to make it out of here, you got to go up there and you got to go without the rope. You got to let it be life or death. And that's how it is in the truth. Having one foot in the world and one foot in the truth, in the eyes of the Lord, you're lukewarm. He'd rather you not even be in the truth than to be half-assed. And he said that he's going to spew you out of his mouth. 50%, 80%, 90%, 95%. It's unacceptable in the eyes of the Lord. You got to be all in. And as the scripture says, he's not going to put anything on us that we can't bear. He's going to slowly build you up, and you will go through the test. That is an automatic, because there's one thing Israel is known for is what? Lip service. We talk all day about, Lord, I love you, this, and I'll do anything that. Lord said, we're going to see. As Sirach chapter 2 says, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. You better prepare, because it's going to come to your door. And the Lord knows all of our hearts and thoughts. You're going to go through a series of events of ups and downs to see, do you really love the Lord? Or do you really just love your position in this world? I done sacrificed so much to get here. And I made it here, man. I did all this to get here. Yep. But now the Lord but now there's a chance you could lose that. What you gonna do? Look, we've seen it. We've all seen it. I personally firsthand seen it. Men in truth out there got the scriptures breaking it down. But it's because everything's going fancy for them. But then one day their wife just gave them the ultimatum. Said, look, it's either me or what you're doing or the truth. And they said, okay. A lot of them went with the wife. That the Lord already knows. That's why he put them through the test. It's going to come, man. Ain't nobody if the Lord is going to deliver you, he's going to make sure that he can vouch and say, this is my people right here. Right? As Zechariah 13, verse 8, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein, the elect of Israel. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord Yahweh is my power. So you're going to be tried, and through the fire, okay? And for the Lord to really call you his people, to make it to the kingdom of heaven, he has to be able to vouch for you and say, listen, this man right here, he can brag on you. This brother right here, I put him through the fire, and he showed that he loved me more than everything, and he was willing to let it all go. He can't vouch, he can't brag on you if deep down there was always that one offering that you just wasn't going to let go, that you wasn't going to offer. He can't be able to do that to you if secretly you was always holding on to this one, you latching on to this rope of the world, something in the world, right? This little safety net, like, in case the Lord fails, I'm gonna go do this. He can't vouch for you if you deep down always had that. No. So he gonna put you through the test. All of us are gonna be put through the test. A good example was the pandemic. Dude, that pandemic was so revealing. And it came out as a faith booster for all of us, especially myself, because I could testify to it. I was actually working in the hospital setting during all of that, and they eventually got to the point where they made it damn near impossible for me to really do what I was doing, except I gave in and took that jab. And I said, fuck that. Right? I went in faith. I prayed to the Lord for weeks because I already knew the day was gonna come. Yeah, I'm gonna have to shake this sucker. And then it's because of that, I'm in a better position because of that. And many brothers can actually test because of what they lost. They're actually in a better position now. The fact that you're still alive, the fact that we're still alive with our life is the price any dang way. So, the fact that we still standing here is the prize. But it's because I went in faith and said, fuck it, I don't know what next week was going to look like. I don't know what next month was going to look like. But because I have faith in the Lord, I'm in actually a better position because that it is true. When your back is against the wall, man, you gonna perform, or it's like sink or swim. He also told me there was another phrase. He said, you ever heard of the saying, burn the ships? He said, I guess during some type of war, the leader said, burn all the ships. And then he looked at his men and he said, all right, now you either gonna live or die. So when you look faced with death, or you either gonna make it or you ain't, that's when you can really pull the best out of somebody, or depending on your circumstance. Okay. So in this truth, believe me when we tell you, you are going to be put through the test. Okay. The Lord's going to really see who do you really love more? Or are you willing to really lose what it is you probably have that's hold dear to you that you worked so hard to obtain? Or are you holding on to this safety net, aka this rope that's preventing you from fully growing in this truth? Because there's just one thing you just weren't willing to let go. Oh, he's coming. You will be tested, man. There's nowhere in the scriptures does it say that this is going to be a walk in the park. 2 Timothy 2, verse 3 says, thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua HaMashiach. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier. So if you're called to be a soldier, it said, no man that warreth entangling himself with the affairs of this life. Why? Because the man says, I'm at war. I have to wait till this is over before I can do this or do that. So what's more important to you? Well, you have to make sure that this is this truth. In the areas you lack, you're going to go through some scares in life. You may go through some, whatever it is. You have to examine your mindset. What was I thinking at during this time? Where was my mind at? And the Lord, I'll tell you, the Lord gonna get you because you're going to go through it and you ain't even going to really realize the deal until after the fact. You might not even think about the scriptures till after the fact. And then you reflect, you say, oh, wait a minute, man, what was my mind at? And you're going to really realize through those times if you really believed in the Lord or not, because you're going to say, I did it because I just had faith in the scriptures, man. Or you might say, look, Lord, I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of doubting. I need to check myself. I really need strength in this area, because when this happened, I was kind of afraid. I doubted. You got to examine yourself. That's why scripture says, examine yourselves daily, lest ye be reprobates. Matthew 13:3, and he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, behold, a sower went forth to sow, and when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, because they had no root, they withered away. And some fell among the thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But others fell into good ground and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 60-fold, some 30-fold. Who have ears to hear, let him hear. And we know the breakdown of that as he explained. The seeds represent the believers who come into this truth, who hear the word. Those who fell upon the wayside and the fowls came and devoured them up, meaning they heard this truth, but then Satan came and took it from them. When his sun fell amongst the stony places, it says they had no deepness of earth. And then when the sun was up, they scorched. That sun represents heat, the persecution. When things are starting to get hot, when things are starting to get rowdy. Listen, we all going to be put to the test too, because we see that this devil's making this move with this. He's going to use the rhetoric of like anti-Semitic. He's going to really try to label us and slander us, just like he's doing the Palestinians. Look at the hell. Look at all the hell they catching because they being slandered on. That he's going to do the same thing to us, to the believers, and say that we're anti-Semitic or we're radicals or we're dangerous, whatever it is he wants to say. You know, you read Maccabees, it tells you that they made it to where we weren't even allowed to call ourselves Jews. So it's going to get to the point where just us calling ourselves Israelites, they could deem it as you can get arrested for it. We know this. But we talk about it, but it's because it's not here yet. But when it's actually here, then we're really going to see how we about what we say. When we can actually witness being touched or locked up because of the truth. And said what? Some was scorched. So some of those seeds who fell amongst the stones are going to be like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. Because they never really prepared themselves in their heart that it could actually come and that it actually can come to them. It could actually come to their door. Because maybe they position themselves in this world so strategic to where, okay, if this fails, I do this. If this fails, I do that. Sure, but if the Lord wants you to go through it, he's gonna bring it to your door. And you got your family there, you know, and they'll be threatening you. You look at your family, look at your family. They took the chip. Won't you take that microchip? And that's why we say that the pandemic was a good example. The fact, let's say if you took the vaccine and you're still here, that's a blessing in itself. But we're gonna tell you right now, if you did that because you lacked faith, you better pray to the Lord for faith, because they're gonna do that same thing, but it's gonna be ramped up times 200. Because when they bring that chip, same deal. They're gonna ease it on in. Oh, you don't have to get it. Don't worry, you don't have to get it. You worried about, you don't have to get it. It's not forced. It's just for the people who want it. I know, because I was in the hospital setting when they brought that dang jab. I saw exactly what they did. I was in, you could say, the trenches. Don't worry, it's not mandatory. Not making it mandatory. It's just for the people who wants to get it. You know, people can make an appointment right now. Come on down, you know. And at the same time, they make them feel good about it. Hey, they sent the email every week. We're happy to say that 57% of our staff is vaccinated. Next week, 60-something%, 80%. Yeah. But if you know any better, you already knew the day was going to come. And then eventually, what did they say? All right. No more messing around. Listen, we want to move forward with this. And to ensure safety, we're going to require everybody to have it by this day. You already knew it was coming if you know if you in the know. So, you know, the writing was on the wall for me right off the bat. And I wanted to get the hell out of there anyway, because I knew about that microchip was going to come. So that's exactly what they did. Okay. Now I got the exemption, right? But then what did they do after that? So you think like, okay, you're in the clear now, right? What did they do after that? They made it hard for it. They said, all right, and for all of you 3%ers that don't got it, basically, you know, twice a week, you got to get tested, all this other stuff. They just made it hard for you to force you into compliance. Point is, they're going to do the same thing with that chip. Don't worry. It's optional. Come take it. You don't have to, you know. And they're going to make you feel good. And exactly what they did. They made you feel good. You're a hero. They made you feel a hero for working through it. But then when it came to it, now you need to lose your job. See, that's how the devil operates. Now you're the devil. Now you're holding people back. That fear caused a lot of people to take it. The fear of either dying, the fear of losing their job, the fear of losing their position, their friendships, their family. A lot of people just went with it because their family did it. Their wives did it. And I don't want to be the only one. So I feel safe following the herd. I don't want to be on the outside. That's that persecution that the scriptures is talking about. That heat, things are getting heated up, and some scorched. And if you took that jab and you still here, you better praise the Lord that you still here. But you better ask for faith, because it's gonna come again. And we like to say, if you took the jab, you're gonna take the chip. Now, a lot of you, if you have faith, you can make it out. You know, the Lord give you the faith so you can pass. And you're gonna have a lot of brothers who didn't take the jab, but it's gonna take the chip, because it's gonna be ramped up. It's gonna come for all of us. We're gonna all be in those positions. You know, we're gonna all be tempted. And for those like who took it because of that job or all that, that's that safety net. That's that rope that they had. Said, no, I'm not willing to lose this. So I'm a conform. And that's a big deal. That's a serious deal because of what's coming. Okay. And then he goes on to say that some fell amongst the thorns, and this thorn sprung up and choked them, which means same thing. They, for the riches of this world, the deceitfulness of this world, they was deceived and said, I think it's better for me to just focus on the word. I think the world is a lot better than this truth. And the riches, right? The riches, they want to make the money. They find this life more beneficial than the truth. And the truth is like holding them back. So they go to this truth. They, like I said, they got one foot in the world, one foot in the truth. And you got a lot of Israelite leaders that's the same way. And you following these guys, that's the danger. That's the danger. I'm telling you, a lot of these Israelite leaders, they're making the climb with the rope. So when all else fails, they out of here. They have the little backdoor cut. They got an escape plan if all else fails. They not for real about this, and it shows in their works. So, you know, the moral of the story is, just like you learn from that, is that the faith in Yahweh Shem Yahshua is all you're going to have in that day. A lot of us think that we're going to go into Jacob's trouble with this or with that. Well, at least I'm going to have my son. At least I'm going to have my children. At least I'm going to have my wife. And we tell you these situations because it is possibility. It's very real situations. You could come home one day and your wife went and got the chip. A lot of you don't even know that behind the scenes, your wife probably went and cast in the ballot for Kamala Harris or Trump. Behind your scenes, you just won't know. She ain't gonna tell you, but she went and voted. Why? Because that shows you that her mind is still here. She claimed, yeah, I'm in the truth. The Lord this, the Lord that. Behind the scenes, she went to schedule the vote because her mind is in this world. So you thinking, yep, I'm always gonna have my wife when we come into trouble. At least we gonna stick it through. Have you considered the possibility that maybe you won't? Examine yourselves, because I'm not excluded. None of us are excluded. All we're going to have is that you got to make sure that your lifeline is Yahweh Shem Yahushai. That's it. Because otherwise, you ain't going to make it. If you hold on to one thing and say, I'm willing to let it all go, but this one thing, you ain't going to make it. Because the Lord is going to come and he's going to see if you're willing. And the thing is, just learn from Abraham. He didn't even have to sacrifice what was precious to him, but the fact that he was willing to. The Lord preserved both it and him. That's the power that the Lord has. You have to be able to make the jump without the rope. Cash all your chips in on this truth. And in the end, you win. Lord's willing, if you are of his elect. But that is a challenge for all of us. It's just, it's nature. It's nature, like the man explained. You can do incredible things if You can have your body do incredible things if you have a fear that you're going to die or fear of death. Just like our people who create these inventions. Their circumstance caused them to come up with things out of nowhere, just a spark, that led the groundwork to where we're at now. Just because of their circumstance. They say, look, I'm really gonna sink or swim up in this motherfucker. And I choose to swim. So that's the same in this truth, man. Put all your faith in Yahweh Shem Yahshua, and you're gonna see where it's gonna take you. And the Lord is gonna show you his reward for having faith in him. But if you always have that safety net in this world, if you're holding on to something, you can't really get to that level then. And more importantly, when the test comes, you're gonna fall. All right? So make the climb without the rope. Shalom.